What's up everybody? My name is Tiny Tyler and welcome back or welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about Pokemon X and Y. I really like the games. I mean, this is what, 12 years later, and having played the games now 3 to 5 times, I actually kind of forget. I know I just played it again for a minimum of the 3rd time. I just finished up another playthrough of live version, and upon finishing the game again, I've just been reflecting on a lot of the good things that Pokemon X and Y brought to the game. Now, I think because the games have been out for so long, many people are aware of a lot of the downsides that X and Y carry with them, but I'll probably hit on some of those things a little bit too. But I, generally speaking, want to talk about a lot of the positives and a lot of the good qualities that Pokemon X and Y brought to the game, or rather the series at large. So let's get right into this. I guess actually before I do that, I want to offer some context for anybody who's new here. This is only my 2nd YouTube video I'm posting on this channel. My name is Tyler Egan. I am actually an online wellness mentor and educator, and I have been in love with Pokemon since, I don't even know exactly what age, but I've been around since the very first games. I got really into it during the 2nd generation of games. Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal hold a very special spot in my heart. The whole 16 badge thing and the whole post game of those games was amazing. So I've been a fan of Pokemon my entire life, or the good majority of it. And I'm not a gamer, and I'm not really into cartoons or anime. I just love Pokemon. So I wanted to share that love in whatever form with the YouTube world. The one other video I posted so far was a competitive Pokemon montage, I suppose, of a team I tried to put together. So my YouTube channel will consist of any and everything Pokemon. Like, I don't really care about getting niche, at least for now, like competitive Pokemon or anime stuff. Like, I love Pokemon at large, all of it. And so for now, I'm gonna be posting about whatever just kind of comes up and whatever I feel like talking about. So with those 2.5 minutes out of the way, let's get into this and let's talk about Pokemon X and Y and the things I've really enjoyed about it. Now, I have some notes, some bullet points here that I'm going to be looking down at, but one of the things that I really feel like X and Y did really well and did right, and a lot of the things I liked about X and Y, I feel like they set the foundation for what Pokemon is today. Now, I haven't actually played Scarlet and Violet yet, but I've been watching some of the VGC tournaments on the YouTube channel, and just the animation. So I've seen the animations and I've heard about the downsides of Scarlet and Violet. So, but that kind of stuff aside for a moment, one of the things X and Y did right is it really brought this level of aliveness to the Pokemon, the mainline series games. Now, I don't think this is like a downside of the Game Boy Advance DS era. I think it's just the nature of the capability of those devices. And I think this is what the 3D gaming has brought to the table, is just the ability for them to make it feel more alive when we're playing and experiencing the game. I mean, with Pokémon-Amie and like Super Training I'll get to in a little bit, but like Pokémon-Amie and then what it brought to what that expanded into in like Sword and Shield, is it really brought this level of companionship with the Pokemon that you chose. Now, that was always there in the original games, but like you get to pet them and feed them and things of that sort. And I thought that was really cool. It really brought this level of like, there's a deeper connection with the Pokemon itself. And I personally really enjoyed this. It wasn't just about the strategy anymore, whereas I felt like every game, maybe not, most of the games leading up to X and Y were, at least from my experience, more about the strategy and grinding and things of that sort. And the Pokemon-Amie especially brought this level of companionship and connection with the creatures themselves, which I found quite fun. To kind of piggyback on the Pokemon-Amie thing, and just like it really helped develop the idea of friendship with the Pokemon, in my opinion. And this friendship also carried into the technical side of it within the game, like friendship evolution. So like the Pokemon-Amie made friendship evolution better. And again, I just thought that was really cool. I didn't really experience the one aspect of Pokémon-Amie until Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where the more and more your, I don't know if it's friendship level or the enjoyment level, whichever one of those is increased, the more the Pokemon will actually like hold on with 1 HP and stuff like that. And all of this I'm going to use to segue into my next point, which is it gave it more of an anime-like feel. Now, I guess if you never watched the anime or you're not into it, you never really invested your time and energy into the anime, then this point may not really resonate with you. I've always been a fan of the anime, and there are certain things about the anime I felt was cool, like just using journeys as an example really fast, where Pikachu gets a fucking fire blast from a Charizard and lives it, and then gets up, blasts with lightning bolts, and then attacks with this OP Thunderbolt that ends the match, and Ash becomes the World Monarch in the very last episode, one of the last episodes against Leon. Like that kind of thing, where like you can see the bond of trainer and Pokemon alike that they talk about in the anime. And now it's like it feels like with the foundation X and Y set in stone, there was more of a gap to bridge between the anime and the mainline series games. Whereas during the like Game Boy Advance era, during like Ruby Sapphire, things of that sort, it was like there's anime logic, and then there's in-game logic, and then there's a clear separation. But now they seem to be more blended, and I personally really appreciated that and really enjoyed it. And a lot of people rag on EXP share and super training. Or maybe not super training, but people rag on the EXP share making it easier, and I totally get that point, and I don't disagree with it. But I think there's a different aspect that the EXP share has brought to the table now. And even in like, again, I haven't played Scarlet and Violet, so I don't know if it's like this, but in Sword and Shield with the what are they called? The experience candies and whatnot, is it gives us more of an opportunity to team build and try different Pokemon out. Like you could play 80% of the game with 5 Pokemon and then find 2 more you like at the very end and bring them in and use them. So for example, when I played Sun and Moon for the first time, I really wanted to use Komodo. And now Komodo, I believe you can't get it until like the final Kahuna challenge or something like that, but because of EXP share, I was able to catch the Komodo up and use it in the Pokemon League, which is the kind of thing I mean, is like it's cool. Whereas in the past, like in Gen 2, when you would get the Dratini from Claire, and that might actually be post-game, I can't remember now, it's been so long, but let's just say you get a Dratini after you beat the 8 gym in Gen 2, catching that Pokemon up to the rest of the level of your team is a real challenge to do, because you gotta grind your way up. And while there is sense of reward from the grinding back then, and there is we'll come to another point too down the road about like reaching level 100. Like there's a sense of accomplishment in the grinding and reaching that level 100 that isn't necessarily there anymore. I think the EXP share, overall speaking, it may have made the mainline story parts of the game easier, but I think it's brought so much more to the table where now you don't have to worry about spending all the time grinding just to beat the gym leader, but instead you can actually explore more of what the game has to offer. And I could see totally why people are against that when they want the challenge of the gym leaders, and there's probably a balance that Pokemon or Game Freak could find there. But personally, I think EXP share has brought just as many positives to the table as it has negatives, because it's allowed us to explore more team building options. And I mean, my last Ultra Sun playthrough, I think I used a total of 9 Pokemon, which, like, playing Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald that way would have been, using 9 Pokemon total would have been damn near impossible. Unless you really like battling wild Pokemon, which I really don't. And back then, I would make a point to battle every possible in-game trainer you could battle. Okay, moving on. So yeah, I want to come back to my point about the anime now. Like, it just gave us like more of this anime-like feel, where there's like more of like that companionship with not only the Pokemon, but starting in X and Y, traveling with friends, right? Like you had like Shauna and Tierno and that whole gang, Serena. And while it wasn't exactly like the anime where, you know, in the X and Y series, Serena, Ash, Bonnie, and Clement are traveling together all the time, they all popped up so frequently, it gave more of that feel like you're actually traveling with your friends. They called you a nickname and everything like that. Like I have my most recent playthrough open right here. I used a whole fire team, and just to make it a little bit more challenging for myself. And let me tell you something, it might be easier now with the EXP share on, but the one thing I can say is using a fire only team, what's his name? Grant was a mother effort to beat. It was crazy. It took me a few times and like a very quirky, what's the word I'm looking for? Very quirky strategy to beat it. Like I had a flare gun at the time and I kept using baby doll eyes which I learned was a priority move and lowered Tyrant's attack to beat the little pain in the butt. So yeah, it gave it more of like an anime-like feel in the regards of friends traveling with you. I mean, Sun and Moon continued this too with Lily, and I know people talk about the hand-holding of those games, and I can understand that, but I think what that type of gameplay invites is more of that companionship and friendship that the anime offers. And again, just personally, as somebody who has been around from the very beginning, I feel like it bridges the gap between the anime and the games a lot better, which personally I appreciate. I can understand like old heads who have been around from the beginning like me not liking them because I just want to play the game and it's like maybe more about strategy or whatever it is for them. I get both aspects of it, but personally I found that to be quite more enjoyable. Like the character dialogue gives the characters more depth. Like in X and Y specifically, like what's his name? What's the evil guy's name? Lysander. I just beat the game. Lysander is a good example because the whole plot of what he was trying to do was so emotionally charged, whereas in even Fire Red and Leaf Green, I mean, all you had was a block of Giovanni, and what they were really doing didn't, I mean, yeah, they took over a whole city, but it didn't seem as emotionally charged as Lysander did. And again, I do believe that is just a part of having that 3D capacity that the consoles offer. But without X and Y setting the foundation for that, it may not be there today. And for me personally, I enjoy that aspect of it all. What else do I have here? Another point, I'll kind of hit on the expanded Pokedex aspect of it all. Now, which again kind of ties into the team building. But again, it gives you a variety to use Pokemon that maybe you couldn't use before. Like I actually just found this out through this playthrough of Y, was you can get Gibble right where you enter the Kalos power plant. It's in that like desert area. I didn't know that before. I thought that was really cool. So around like the 4th gym, you can get a Gibble and then go to the Pokemon League with a Garchomp. Now, again, in these games, you don't necessarily need a Garchomp to beat it, but at the same time, it's just really cool because now there's so many Pokemon to choose from that you can play the game through. Even the rare ones that may have been locked to like the post game are now accessible earlier on, and I found that to be quite enjoyable. Like Eevee, you can get Eevee at the very beginning or pretty close to it might be right after the second gym in Pokemon X and Y, and now you have, you know, at least 6 options open to you with the original 3, Flareon, Jolteon, Vaporeon, and then the friendship evolutions, Sylveon, Espeon, and Umbreon. I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, Glaceon and Leafeon have to wait till the end of the game to find their respective evolution spots. But all things considered, it just gave more team building variety, and I personally enjoyed that, and gives us an opportunity to use Pokemon maybe that in previous games we didn't have access to. And then like just kind of give another example from this playthrough, because I had a lot of fun just using a fire only team, and I used a Chandelure for the first time. Now I've been involved in competitive Pokemon in like the Smogging community off and on for the last like 10 years, and I love using Chandelure. Choice Scarf that mother, and I just have so much fun spamming flamethrowers and shadow balls and things of that sort. But in the playthrough, it was a lot more fun to use it because I luckily caught a modest natured one on the first go through, and I never got to use the Chandelure on a playthrough before, and that was just a lot of fun. And even in Sun and Moon, I'm going to replay that again soon, and one of the other Pokemon I've taken a liking to quite a bit through competitive play is Kamala. And now I'm going to go make sure I catch one of those while I'm replaying Sun and Moon. And it just, I guess it really depends on the perspective you have on it. Like if you just like to play through as quickly as you can, like how you're playing the game. I personally just like to explore all the Pokemon and all the different varieties and team build in so many different ways. Sometimes it's not even ideal. It's just like Pokemon I've never used before. Like when I played Sword for the first time, I used Grapplock, and I'm gonna be honest, it's a cool looking Pokemon. Its design is like top notch, but it's not very good, and I used it anyway, you know? So the expanded Pokedex I think just offers that, whereas like in Black and White, the original, you could only use Unova related or native Pokemon, which again, that there's an aspect of that that's really cool too. But those expanded Pokedex, and I guess you could definitely argue that White 2 and Black 2 maybe introduced this sooner, but there's just a lot more variety in X and Y, which is why I'm hitting on it in this video. The other thing I really enjoyed about Pokemon X and Y that I really feel they laid a wonderful foundation for what has come today is the ambitious nature of the world building they did. Like Lumio City as an example. I mean, I remember playing X and Y for the first time 10 years ago, and I got lost in that city so many freaking times. It was insane. And the ambitious nature they had from, I can't remember the big city in black and white, but I do remember what it looked like, and it very much had a New York City vibe to it. But the 2D model of like that big city to the 3D model was so expansive, because the 2D model just felt like Tetris pieces moving around. The 3D model felt like a real living organism that a city is. I felt it brought more realness to the Pokemon world. The ride Pokemon are another aspect of this that I thoroughly enjoyed, and again, it brought more realness to the Pokemon world, because, I mean, growing up, I'd watch an anime episode where Ash or somebody's riding a Charizard or a Pidgeot or one of these things, and it's like, man, the only thing you ever get is, in the original games, is the bird popping up as you hit fly, and then it just zigzags off the screen. And again, this is partially because of the capability of the consoles back then, but it's so cool to see it change in real time, like riding Mamoswine. That was amazing. That was so cool. You know, and there's a lot of downside to that as well, but for the first time they were implementing it, it was really a lot of fun. And the other thing that I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about when it comes to X and Y is the berry growing field that they offer quite early in the game. I mean, they don't give a lot of opportunities to find berries, but you can find one citrus berry and then grow a whole field of them. And I really explored that this playthrough around, and it was really cool because it gave a different, it added a different angle to the game. And this is to come back to my earlier point, kind of what I was hitting on about giving the EXP share and the easiness of the gym train, like the gyms and the Elite Four, gave more of an opportunity to explore the other aspects the game had to offer. This playthrough, I actually EV trained some of the Pokemon, like my Talonflame. It had Flame Body, so I maxed it out, maybe not maxed out, I trained it a lot in a lot of ways in HP and defense, so it could be like a defensive wall, activate Flame Body, and then gave it the Rocky Helmet to overcome some obstacles I had. So it offered a different perspective on team building, and different, like these things, they offered the EXP share and the easiness of it allowed us to explore the game in different ways than we normally would have, where it's just like catch the strongest Pokemon that can beat all the gym leaders and move on. Again, it really just paved the way for what was to come, or what has come with Gen 7, 8, 9, and we'll see with 10, you know? Now, obviously, I don't feel like I need to go too deep into these, but I will share some of the things that I feel like the games fell short on. And it really will tie into a lot of what I've talked about already, like the ride Pokemon, right? Like now that we've seen like Gen 7, for example, and a Machamp literally holding you in its arms, you know? There were a lot of things that was left to be desired. And, you know, I can't help but wonder if sometimes they do that on purpose so they can build later. I mean, for the first time they built these games, or the first time they were experiencing the 3D model, I really feel like they did an excellent job with the games. I mean, Kalos looked amazing. You know, it was really wide. It looked like there was a lot to offer, but the depth that it offered, and this is kind of where I'm gonna start getting into the things that I feel like they fell short on, the depth that they offered wasn't really there, you know? Whereas, you know, some of the caves in the older games, where there was a lot to explore. You know, the cave to go from Cerulean, maybe it's just called Cerulean Cave, but no. Is it? No, Cerulean Cave's where Mewtwo is. The cave to go from Cerulean City to Lavender Town. Like, there's so much to explore in that cave. Whereas the cave to go from Camphrier Town to Solage City there wasn't really anything in there. So there wasn't as much exploration, while the map, when you look at the map, it's so wide and vast, the depth that it has to offer just isn't there. And I'm really hoping with Legends ZA coming out, they do take the time to expand on the things that they may have fell short on, but that was the first thing. The second thing is there really wasn't much of a post game, and there was things to do for sure. Like, I mean, my first X playthrough, I had over like 600 hours logged because I just did a bunch of competitive training. I did a lot of online battling, and then I did the Battle Mason a lot. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I cleared the entry level of all of them, and like I unlocked the super double battles and the super triple battles and the super multi battles. So there is a lot to do, but like, I mean, to me, nothing will ever compare to the to Gold and Silver. The post game in those was just unmatched. Until they make a game where you can get all the gym badges, I don't know if that'll ever be beat. Again, the EXP share making things easier, that's a real thing. I really do feel like I'm not going to hit on that much beyond that, except for the fact that, because I've hit on it a million times, it feels like now in the modern games, and this is to me a downside that we lost going from like the 2D era to the 3D, is level 100 doesn't have as much significance anymore. That's kind of disappointing in some regards, because I remember some of the first level 100 Pokemon I got, like Blaziken in my first Ruby playthrough, because I literally only used the Blaziken. Maybe there was like a Tentacruel in there too, but just to surf around on. But level 100 lost its significance in a lot of ways. The story itself, especially in X and Y, it had a lot of potential, but it didn't feel like it landed in its impact. Again, it was so emotionally charged and it had a lot of richness to be explored, like with AZ, and like there being a war, and like rewatching the anime now, the lore they had behind Yveltal and Xerneas at the very end, there could have been so much to explore there, and Zygarde for that matter, which they just kind of threw into Sun and Moon. It really did leave a lot to be desired for, and there was so much potential within the storyline behind the depth that they offered within that, and it just kind of fell a little bit short on that one. And I mean, overall, generally speaking, I would say X and Y felt unfinished, which again, with Legends ZA coming out, maybe that was intentional on their part so that they can make this big game now, which I'll be really curious to see, and I'm really excited to see. But that's just kind of my thoughts on X and Y, looking back on it 12 years later, or nearly 12 years later, after another playthrough with the firing squad. Let me show y'all. That's Ty Lee. Sorry, the ring light's jacking this up. It's my Delphox. That's Turiel the Delphox. That's Agneon the Flareon. Never used a Flareon before. My boy Chandelure, that's Chad. Torkoal, that's Torsil. Too bad it didn't have Drought yet. And then Scorch the Charizard. Damn it. That ring light's really jacking it up. Anyway, I'm thinking about making a video next where I've already started to tinker around with building a competitive team for Gen 6 OU and playing on it and seeing how far I can ladder with it and like record it. But we'll see. Let me know if you want to see that. Let me know your thoughts on the video. What do you think about my perspective on everything? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts and speculations on Legends ZA? I haven't watched too much on it. I'm kind of leaning towards just being surprised when it comes out and I get the game. But that's just where I'm at for now. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Like, what do you want to see them complete if they do? And that's it. That's it, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning into this video and watching for this long. If you took anything from it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more. Let me know what you want to see. And I think that's it. Peace out.